Okay. We're live and in action. Different types of gangs, guys, different philosophies, different objectives. So we're going to talk about those. Let's see. Joe, can you see the board okay?
Yeah.
Courtney?
Yeah.
And in the back end. Oh, good. Just want to make sure. They form on the street, operate in neighborhoods. Normally, as a rule. They could be Hispanic, Latin, African American, Crips, Bloods, Asians. They could be white, ethnic, they could be females. And then they could be criminal gangs. There's a gang in New York. They ride the subways. Angels, something Angels. Anybody know them? Mr. Farber, aren't you from back east?
No, from south, but, yeah, I think.
Not Hells Angels, no. That guy, you know what I'm thinking of. They do good things.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Curtis Sliwa was the, president or something, there, yeah, of the, I know you're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're a gang. Technically, they meet the definition of a gang. But they operate in the subways of New York to do good, to help people. Okay, so there's different kinds of gangs. These are just a few, a snapshot, okay? They're not all of them. Let's talk about outlaw motorcycle gang, Sons of Anarchy. Anybody ever see that show?
Yep.
Yeah, good. Good job. Gemma, that was my wife, she was Gemma. She dispensed justice. Sons of Anarchy, motorcycle gang. Their goal, their objective was to sell weapons, firearms. That's what they did. Some of the motorcycle gangs, Hells Angels, they deal in drugs, extortion, slavery, prostitution, debt collection, money laundering. Those are not good things, all of which are illegal, but they do it. Routinely, systematically, they exploit and infiltrate law enforcement and businesses, and they call themselves one percenters. There has been members of the gang, and I'm thinking of the mob. Okay, they saw some, after Donnie Brasco got my interest up in mob activities. They raised their kids, the mob, not all of them, but some, with the intent to infiltrate law enforcement from the inside. They make sure that at least one of their kids stays clean, doesn't get involved in the family business, so they can plant them inside of an agency. And of course, the whole time they are still working for the family. Okay, so that's one way. I've worked with officers that I suspected were crooked as heck. They looked to be gangbangers because they came from that environment, but in fact they weren't. One of my best friends, he belonged in a gang, and I thought for sure this guy was going to go to prison as an inmate. He ended up going as a guard. So he actually started a year before me. He could relate to that mentality. He could think like they could think. And we were effective in stopping a lot of criminal activity. We were partners in prison. And he would tell me who was who. They speak a different language. Okay, the symbol signs, you guys all know about that flashing baloney. Yeah, they flash these signs. Yeah. Well, he knew all of that crap. He could talk. He loved talking to the Crips because they had a real weird language they spoke in. He knew it fluently. And they thought it was hilarious. But he could work his way in and actually communicate with these guys. In order for law enforcement to be effective in stopping gang activity, you have to know what they're all about. And you're not going to learn that here. Just not. You're going to learn a little about the theory, where they come from, things like that. But to be effective, you have to rub elbows with these guys. You have to spend time with them. Get to know their likes, their dislikes. Listen, be a good listener. Prison gangs, they say they originate in the penal system, but now there's no boundaries. They go back and forth, like that little clip that we saw Wednesday. The messages flow easily from inside the prison to the street. Self-perpetuating, there it is, in and out of prison. Perpetuating in motion. They're fluid. They could be in prison one day, on the street the next, but the criminal activity never stops. Teach small-time criminal. There's always been the mindset that you send a person to prison on a minor offense, a young Hispanic kid, put them in prison, all of a sudden they gotta make some decisions. How they're gonna survive. A member of the gang approaches them, join us. You're not a part of us, you're against us. So they make that decision, well, I need the protection. And before you know it, this low-level offender is now a gang member doing some sophisticated crimes. They go to prison and learn how to become better criminals. 100% of correctional facility respondents report notable increase in membership. That will never change. It's a matter of survival. As a lieutenant, I worked reception center. So the bus would unload about 28 to 30 inmates at a time. I'd get their case files, sit down with the inmate one-on-one. First thing I want to know, who do you run with? Without fail, they're going to tell you I'm not affiliated. So if I get a young black kid, he tells me I'm not affiliated. I said, oh cool, I can put you in with blood. No, you can't do that. I said, who do you run with? Well, I don't run with anybody. Then I'll put you with the blood. Eventually, they're going to claim a side. And he's going to tell me, well, I'm from 8th Street. Okay, then I'm going to put you with the Crips. Oh yeah, that'll work. And in his file, I just labeled him as a Crip. Even though this kid probably wanted nothing to do with them. But as a matter of survival. Same thing with the Mexican, north-south. Joe, where are you from? I'm from the north. Okay, good. I'm going to put you with Norteños. No, I can't go there. Well, why not? Well, I'm from Fresno. That makes him a bulldog. They really don't see eye to eye with the Norteños. There's different sects within these gangs. Not all northern Mexicans get along, not all southern Mexicans, not all Crips, not all Bloods. You gotta know who these sets are and house them appropriately. Therefore, the notable increase in membership. We force their hand. We force their hand. I get a young, innocent-looking kid, little Mexican kid like Marcos coming in. And I'm gonna have to tell him, in order for you to remain innocent, tell me you're a Bible thumper. And I put him down as a Bible thumper in his card. Now I can house them with other Bible thumpers. That's what they're called. Christians, Catholic, doesn't matter. And they don't have to associate with the gang element. If he doesn't want to tell me that, then I got to put him depending on where he's from. If he's from LA, he's going to house with a Sureño. He's from north, somewhere up north, he can be with Norteño, NF, Bulldogs, and there's a couple other smaller sets. Okay, you get the picture though, right? Okay, and that's why the increase in membership. Even if the person themselves does not want to be labeled as a gang member, staff force their hands. It's sad, but it's true. So what if a gang sprang up in your neighborhood? Think about this. We want to get this to your house, where you live. Maybe you already have gangs living there. How many of you do have to deal with a gang element? And you'll know because there's graffiti everywhere. There's one, two. Okay. Thank you. I want to ask where you live. You get the picture. Now the rest of you that aren't dealing with that, imagine if you had to. Rosa, you're Mexican, right? I hate to tell these people what they are. I don't know. I really don't care. But it's for the little scenario. So you're a Mexican, you're innocent, young kid trying to do better for herself, but all of a sudden, here comes this criminal element. And I'm gonna say you live in Southern California, so you're going to be infiltrated by the Sula. 13. The Suleños. They want you. They run your neighborhood. You can't even go to work or to school because they're sitting on your car. Hey, where are you going? What are you doing? Why don't you come with us? We're all right. get you in one way or another, they're gonna keep putting pressure on you. If that's you, what would you do about it? Be real about this problem. What would you really do? And it's harder on the females. You might think, no, it's harder on the guys. No, it's much more pressure on the female. What would you do? Giovanni, would you leave?
Yeah. There's no reason to fight. Why? When you can easily just move somewhere else.
Would you call the cops?
No, because they don't.
No. How easily, what?
How is it so easy to move?
Good
What do you
question.
mean?
Like
There's-
You're buying your
it's
house.
easy to move, right?
Yeah.
But what if you're struggling just to live there?
He said personally.
Oh, personally.
You may want to move, but let's add a little bit more fuel to this scenario. You're married, you have 3 kids, you work hard, you own your own home. But because of the mortgage crisis in 2008, you took a hell of a hit. Your house is now valued less than what you owe. The kids, your kids are young. You see them hanging around with this element, these gang members. You know what's best for them, you wanna get them out of there as fast as possible. What are you going to do about it? Call the cops. Is that a good choice?
No.
That's one option.
It is an option.
That's a bigger target.
You just.
Suddenly you go from them wanting to join you to enemy number 1.
I mean, you know, I mean, if you don't have the resources to move, I mean, so you're gonna just sit there and tolerate what they do? Eventually, you know, you're either gonna have to confront them about it, call the police. I mean, that's about it.
Yeah, it is an eventuality. It's a crisis. It's not nice, sitting in that position, but it's happening right now. Happening right now, maybe in your own communities, I don't know. My dad, like I said, I grew up in a place like that. He moved as fast as he could. It was a terrible, terrible neighborhood. It was government housing. Couldn't get us out of there fast enough. But we were fortunate to have a good mom and dad that were very disciplined. They enforced that discipline on us. They taught us right from wrong. But not everyone is that fortunate. Okay? Keep that in mind. And the reason I try to sink this point home, because it's easy for us to judge those that are in those positions, because we're not experiencing what they're going through. Just move. Just get out of there. You don't have to join that gang. You don't have to. Sometimes they don't have those options.
Yeah, when I was 13, I was like in 8th grade, I believe, and there was like an older like gang and stuff like that, and the girl was like 18, and I was at the library one day, and she told me like she wanted me to be from there, you know, and I was like, no, I always said I wouldn't, like, you know, and so they fought, like they jumped me, and I fought back, and then when it got back to my school, they expelled me for it because you're not supposed to fight. And he's like, well, why didn't you just come and tell us? I'm like, if I would have told you, they would have been at my mom's door, you know? So it's like I had no choice. So I ended up getting expelled from school and like all this other stuff, like on probation and stuff like that. And it was like, I was trying to do the right thing, but it's like you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
That's a good point. Schools have no violence, zero tolerance for that. Is that a good thing? Because there's situations sometimes where you have to defend yourself.
And those girls didn't get in trouble. They didn't get suspended or nothing.
And that's usually what happens. Because they put their story together and say you were responsible, you attacked them.
Yeah, because I'm not gonna lie, I'm like, you know, if I did what I did, you know, but it's like, I was 13, she literally was 18 years old.
18?
Yeah. It's because she got beat up, but still.
You got the best of her?
Yeah,
Good job.
I got 5 brothers.
Good. She's a brawler and a scrapper.
You know what I'm saying? I got the scrap. You know what I'm saying?
Zero tolerance. That's sad. Okay? That's too bad that happened, but that's exactly what happens with these gangs. They put the pressure. As soon as the law comes in, try to put them in check, they turn into little angels, and you're the bad guy. And then as soon as they're gone, they come back pounding on your door, start defacing your property, personal attacks.
They tried to like, afterwards, they tried to jump me while I was pregnant. It was crazy.
That's sad.
Now there's like.
Did you move?
Yeah, like, but a year later. But you know.
But you move, get the heck out of there, get the heck out of there. And it's sad. So as law enforcement, even if we're not faced with that type of environment, there's others that are. And when you come across those people, make sure you show a little empathy. Understand what they have to live with, and don't come down as the hard enforcer all the time. It's not called for all the time. Okay, so characteristics. What is a gang? What makes up a gang? Some criminal activity, and this is just some of the characteristics of a gang. Bless you. Not all gangs have all these characteristics. Some gangs have some of them. Bless you. You okay?
Yeah.
You got allergies or are you sick, Courtney?
Allergies.
Okay. You're allergic to me then. Come on, Courtney. Okay. They're organized. Okay, some gangs are organized. They have leadership. Domain identification. They claim their turf, where they're from. They use symbols to identify themselves. Sometimes they have nicknames. I don't know, Little Chewy and whatever the heck else they come up with. The gang subculture. Violent victimization. They're not going to take advantage of someone who is strong. They prey on the weak. Think of nature, out in nature. The strong survive by living off the weak. The elderly, the infirm, the young, the weak. Those are their targets. Questions on these characteristics? And there's plenty more. Some theories. Why do people join gangs? Protection?
For like a sense of like family.
Sense of family? There's some up here. Social disorganization. They just don't belong anywhere. They're outcasts. They don't fit in. But this gang accepts them, takes them in for who they are. Most of the time, they want to exploit them for something. Culture deviants. They just want to be different. There's gangbangers that come from good families, professional families. The rest of the kids, his siblings or her siblings, are all doing well. But they want to rebel against the norm. They join a gang. Learning, labeling, rational choice, critical or Marxist. These are just theories of why. And they're elaborated further in your text. Each one of these should be broke down and tell you a little bit more about each of them. I'm not going to go into detail. Risk factors of being in a gang. The structure.
I think that's the most important one.
Yeah. The structure, a sense of belonging.
I feel like if you really have a strong connection and like bond and sense of respect for your parents, you're not gonna want to go out and do anything like that because you don't want to like hurt them or anything.
But what if you lack all of this? You don't have that family structure.
Then you don't care. It's like, what are you living for?
You look for it somewhere else. You don't care. You look for that structure anywhere. That sense of acceptance. And the gangs are just waiting to prey on people like this.
I mean, but there are those also too that grew up with the values and morals and were taught that and still gravitated to that.
Absolutely.
Regardless, knowing right from wrong, they still chose to want to be part of that.
It was a conscious decision on their part,
Yeah, no.
for whatever reasons. And to the opposite of that, there's kids that grow up in an environment where both parents are gangbangers, right? But they want nothing to do with it. So they try to separate themselves because they want to do something more with their lives.
I think it looks appealing on the outside because they have money, they have nice cars sometimes, or they have things like weapons, for example, and that's what draws most of the time kids, especially young kids, into it because of the lifestyle that they're living. They're partying, they're drinking.
It seems like fun.
Yeah, it seems like fun.
But they're always having fun.
That's how I grew up in this, like, now my family kind of like looks down on me and how I raise my son, like as if I'm doing something wrong, or like if I think I'm better than them. And
I
it's
like that saying. So you think you're better than me?
Yeah, so it's like, no, it's not that, I'm not saying the way I grew up wasn't good enough for me, I'm just saying it's not good enough for my son, you know, and it's like, I don't cuss around him, a lot of stuff I was exposed to, it's not even close to him, you know what I mean, and it's like, not trying to disrespect my family, cause I am who I am because of them, but he's not gonna be me, and he's
You
not
always
gonna
want something
be-
better for your kid, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's kinda like a big, like, thing, it's like, when you
Kids-
do better, they think.
You're gonna make your own decisions. Your parents, if you have children, parents raise you the best they could. You're gonna raise your child the best you can. And you want a better life for them. I've known a couple of families that both mom and dad are gangbangers, in and out of prison, dealing drugs. And they have 3 kids, the one I'm thinking of, 3 kids, 3 little boys. And the youngest one just started walking at age 2. They're about 2, 4, and 6. And they already dress them up like little gangbangers. They don't have tattoos, but they use pins and they put tattoos on their little faces. Yeah. Where the hell is social services? They're trying, and you know, I can't imagine why, but that's normal to them. It's acceptable behavior. They expect these kids to grow up and be part of the gang. So what can society do to decrease the most important risk factors of becoming a gang member? First, you gotta identify the risk factors. We'll do that. Are improvements already made, and then why not? So, first one, what are the risk factors? Let's put you guys in a classroom. You're teachers, every one of you, in a 5th grade classroom. They show the signs much younger than 5th grade. But you're in the 5th grade, and you see signs already. 2 or 3 of your students are gravitating towards older kids who are involved in gangs. You see it. You see their pants down around their behinds, their language, their stroll. Oh, they always have a dead leg. They always just drag a leg or whatever, but you can tell. You're the 5th grade teacher. What are you going to do? You see the risk there.
Intervene
Excellent, we're gonna intervene. Problem solved, right?
and make that kid my priority.
Okay.
Ask him to come, or her to come to lunch with me every day, like have lunch in the classroom, avoid that contact. Be proactive on the playground or when they have recess or whatever.
Okay.
Just take them under your wing to, like, deteriorate like that. Have
Try to
them in a
separate them
relationship.
from-
Yeah.
Who else? What else would you do? You're the teacher. What do you got?
I think it's just like showing that you genuinely care about them, but also not allowing that behavior, like, you know, don't walk in my classroom with your pants to your ankles, put your hands up, you know,
Put your
like,
pants up.
like be firm, but still like know that they know you're doing it out of love, like show them that there's more to life than
Tough
that.
love.
Yeah,
How about if you contact the parents?
Yeah, I was gonna
oh,
say that.
yeah, okay,
That's easier said than done, you know, and then you're trying to implement these things, but when little Johnny goes home and tells mommy and daddy, now mommy and daddy gonna come back.
You're
that's
picking
just
on
gonna-
them.
There's gonna be a problem, you know, because you're sticking your nose where it doesn't belong, and don't try to raise my kid, that ain't none of your business, you see.
but your kid's not gonna
But
have
they're
his
there
pants
for
in his
X
ankles.
hours.
Okay, one thing, guys, a revelation. Kids will lie. Kids lie. So they go home, they tell their parents, the teacher's picking on me. I can't even eat with my friends. She makes me eat with her all the time.
Well, most of the time, especially working in the school, or not working in the school district, but I'm really involved in the school district, those type of kids, their parents don't care. They're
You're
not
not the one
coming.
that does.
Well, I'm just saying though, like those kind of kids, their parents aren't there. If you call them, they don't answer back. They don't do the kids' homework. Like they're not involved. That's why, like, especially in the school districts, they get counselors involved. Every single elementary school in Hemet District has a counselor. So those type of situations can be addressed from the start.
Okay, so you take them, you call the parents in, they're calling you a liar, because their kid would never do that. And he's standing there like a little angel, hands all the way up. They're there saying, why you're picking on him? So then your principal talks to you, why are you picking on him? And you're telling them what's really going on. Other teacher says, yeah, I've seen this. So we get the counselor involved. The counselor brings them in and sits in. And while this kid is in front of a counselor or a principal or their parents, they behave. But the minute they're not in the picture, they revert. They're playing a game with you. And at the 5th grade, even younger, 4th, even as young as 3rd grade. I taught a 2nd grade once, first day of my life. These kids are rotten. But anyway, so you're dealing with this kid, and you're the only one that seems to know what's going on. Parents don't understand, they won't cooperate. Their kid hasn't done anything wrong. But you see this kid going down the wrong path. You're doing everything you can to try to intervene and save this kid. You're not getting any help. What do?
Continue to do what I think is best.
That's all you can, right? That's all you can do. Teachers, professionals.
What about having guest speakers that were in games but are now successful? Go and talk to the kids. I remember when I was in elementary and middle school, we had a couple of those. My own sister, she went into my elementary school and talked to us. Showed us her old grades. She didn't even have a .1. She had all failing grades. And she had a game-banging boyfriend and all that. And now she's in her master's program.
Isn't that wonderful? What changed your life?
Education. We started going into PAL and boxing programs
Yeah.
with the cops.
Pal, by the way, is a
They-
great.
They started helping us, showing us education, telling us that they have our support, tutors, all of that, and yeah.
That's wonderful. There's not enough of it, especially the PAL, Police Activity League. We had a couple where I used to live in Lemoore, and it was great. It was a sanctuary for the kids to be themselves and get away from the criminal element. But what happens is the money runs out.
Here in him, it's called Cops for Kids.
Cops
They
for
have,
Kids,
dance programs, art programs, tutoring, boxing, and, another thing I keep forgetting.
So you can refer a child that you believe is at risk to Cops for Kids? That's excellent. There are programs, and through the counselor, like you said, you were gonna get there. You need help, okay? No one person can be able to do it by themselves. There's too many temptations tugging at these kids. Look at social media. They just open it up and they can expose themselves to some of the worst things in America. A student was in Visalia, I was teaching, and we were talking about gang violence. And she goes, look at this video, and she opened it up, and it was, I thought, like a Hollywood production of 2 guys holding this person, they were Mexican, and another guy with a big ass knife on the chair, right? And he starts cutting at his head. He took the man's head off, and and it was real. And I kept looking, I go, this is real stuff? He goes, oh yeah, it happened in Mexico. And then when you know what I'm talking about?
I saw the one where they shot the guys.
No, they cut his head off. Okay, now if these students could get that footage, there's nothing to prevent a child from accessing the same thing.
Oh, like Momo. Oh.
I don't know what that is.
It was, they put on this video, like there's kids YouTube, right? So your kids don't watch like crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Well, somehow this girl, like at first it's like a kid's show, and then like 5 minutes into it, she's all telling the kids to like slit their wrists and kill
No.
children.
Oh yeah, and it
Yeah,
shows
it was
them
a huge
Burn their
thing.
house down when their parents are
Yeah, like
It
shows
shows
them
them
like,
how to, like,
turn on the
stuff.
oven like this, and like this is how you can make something
My
nice for
sister's
your
not allowed to watch
kids.
YouTube anymore.
Yeah, my
But
son
that's
can't
the
watch
problem,
YouTube.
a lot of the stuff isn't, like, it's
Not
on
on
the
there.
parents, it's not on the teacher or the police officer.
But these parents work for a living, they're too busy, they're too tired. They have to
I mean,
live their own
should they have
lives
kids?
too, you know?
I mean,
Don't
not,
have kids.
These are just excuses I get.
not you. What do you mean?
It's
live
your
your
job.
Life? Your life is your. I wish that.
No, it's your job as the teacher to take care of my kid. It's not my problem.
That's why our.
That's why I don't teach elementary school no more. One day, that's all I could take. I'm sitting there watching these kids, I'm thinking, okay, this guy's a gangbanger, she's gonna end up being, but some bad things. And I start labeling these kids in the 2nd grade. I said, nope, I'm not gonna work no more in elementary school. I had my teaching certificate, the whole bit, 'cause I thought I wanted to teach in high school, but they wanted me to go down to this elementary school. 8th grade wasn't too bad, but 2nd grade? No. Where are the parents type of deal? Okay, so there are risk factors. You can see these. Intervening, Cops for Kids, excellent. PAL, excellent. You have to know your resources in your community. Make sure when you refer a child, you follow up that they actually went to the appointment or participating in whatever organization you referred them to. Okay. So responding, how are we going to correct this problem? Primary prevention. There's nothing that could substitute raising your child the right way at a young age. No guarantee the child's going to turn out okay, but it's your best shot. Primary prevention starts at the home, in the family unit. Secondary are the friends, the associates, the extended family. And then if something happens between the primary and the secondary, there has to be positive, it doesn't say it, but it has to be positive intervention. Positive intervention when at all possible. Because if that doesn't work, then the negative intervention comes in, and that's the police, the cops. We conduct gang sweeps. We have task force. Legislation that says you cannot be a gang member. Isn't that wonderful? We have laws that says you can't be a gang member. Yeah, but we still have gang members. We have laws that says you can't do drugs, illegal drugs, but we still have a problem with illegal drugs. So having the laws on the books isn't always the answer. The answer is enforcing them. Okay, we have to enforce what we have. The answer isn't making new laws. Enforce the ones we have. Re-entry is cool if you can do it. Juveniles, before they're released from their probation or boot camps or detention centers, wherever they're being housed, there is re-entry programs so that when they come out, they can reintegrate into society and contribute to your communities. Adult corrections has not only programs, but educational resources for reentry. I've dealt with people that have done 25, 30 years, 35 years. Majority of their lives behind bars. And now it's time for them to be released. That one guy didn't know how to fill out an application. Didn't know how to drive. Didn't have a driver's license. I had lost everything. All connection with his family. Didn't have anyone to go home to, anywhere to go to. But all he knew was that he had to go out and stay out. So I asked him what he was going to do. How are you going to make it? You only get $200 when you're released. Gate money, that's it. So what are you going to do? He said, well, I'm going to take my $200. And I'm going to go get drunk, get me a hooker, rob a store. He said, I'll be back. That was his re-entry plan. He's an older guy, early 60s. But that was his plan. Said he had no one. No one. Prison was his family. Didn't want to leave. If you would have given him the choice, he would have stood. No doubt about it. But he said he planned to have a little fun. Never got to see him again to see if he actually did it.
But that's why a lot of them reoffend when they get out. Because they have no marketable skill, no trade, no nothing.
Nothing.
You know, they've done two decades, 3 decades in the penitentiary. Now you let him back out on the street. You know, he has nothing.
Nothing.
You know,
Absolutely.
unless he has family or something or whatever. But then, do they want him around?
No.
I know some
Nobody
people
want anything to do with this guy.
who don't want to come home, or they don't want to get out, and
No,
then
he
if
did.
they do, they go right back in. And then this lady, this officer, she did like a interview, and she's like, yeah, this girl came in and she told me she was home, and that she missed everybody, like she missed, like she couldn't wait to get back there, and she started crying like that. She's, how sad is that?
We
That's all.
institutionalize them.
Institutionalize.
Exactly. We institutionalize them. And that's not the goal of corrections at any level. Okay, correcting behavior, modifying behavior is the idea. Okay. And it's only worse when you're dealing with gangs. It's bad enough with a regular offender. But we're dealing with a gang element, it just heightens the problems. Speaking of problems, lack of social opportunities. You get a guy that comes in, you run a nice reputable business. I come in to apply for a job, I have tattoos all the way down, sleeves, full sleeves. Yeah, I got tattoos on my face. Had one guy, it actually said F you right across the forehead.
What
Did he give me a job?
No.
I believe the state still does it, but I'm not for certain. We were doing it when I was working for the state, and that's subsidizing the employer. So if you're paying your employees $10 an hour, we'll pay them half. So you're only paying the other half. So it's an incentive to hire a convict. Some companies take the chance, some just won't.
There's this foundation started by like ex-gang members in LA where they remove your tattoos for free.
They must be pretty busy. Pretty busy. So some of the strategies, they're listed there. But it is a problem. These are just some nice words of how we're gonna deal with it. In reality, nobody really knows how to deal with the problem. If you ever lived in a house that was infested, okay, some houses are, in fact, with roaches, you got a roach problem. No matter how clean you are, or dirty, or that's not the idea. It's just a house that's infested with roaches. So you tent it to fumigate. And for a couple of weeks, you don't see a roach. But eventually they're gonna come back. I always say gangs are like roaches. You just can't get rid of them. No matter what you try, they're going to survive. But we gotta try something, and these are some of the strategies. Now let's elevate the gang problem into a very effective, well-organized and structured gangs, cartels, the mob. They've infiltrated, not only at the low-level law enforcement, but they got judges and politicians in their pockets. You're just a low-level employee fighting an uphill battle against the Mexican drug cartel. Some of you said you want to work Border Patrol. Good for you. You're out there on the job, you're working the Border Patrol, you make a bust. A good bust. Large quantity of drugs coming across the border. So you confiscate it, make the arrest. Within the week, the people you arrested were released, they're gone. You're wondering, what the heck happened? Look at all the problems they had with, what's that big drug guy, the El Chapo guy? That's just one. The resources they spent on that one individual when there's 10 more sitting behind him. How do you fight a battle like that? I read a paper once. Actually, it was another teacher wrote it. And it outlined how to eliminate the cartel. It was super interesting and it would work. That's eliminate the demand. He's an economics professor. Supply and demand. If there's no demand, there's no need for the supply. So while we sit here and complain about these drug cartels, these gang problems, selling, you gotta look in the mirror. Because if there was no demand for all these narcotics, you wouldn't have